The entire PGA season culminates this week in East Lake in Hotlanta, Georgia, as we crown the 2024 Tour champion. Fairway to Heaven, live in 30 seconds. And a very good evening, everybody, and welcome to Fairway to Heaven right here on Edge of Philly Sports. We're live, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, you know the drill, wherever you're watching. Hit that like button, share button, subscribe, follow, retweet button. Just do whatever you can to share the show out as we wrap up Season 4 of Fairway to Heaven with this year's Tour Championship. I'm your host, Phil Stiefel. We got Jason Sullivan back after a few weeks of football practice because he's becoming the greatest football player in an adults league ever created. Good evening, everybody. We got lots to get into. It is the Tour Championship. We just to forewarn everybody, preface this. If you're watching this show, we are pre-recording this on Monday night. You are watching this live on Tuesday evening. But just so you know, if I don't address your comments, I will see them on replay. I will address them in comments and reply to you when I get a chance. But we are pre-recording this show around schedules. We could not miss this week with the final week of the season. Good evening, Jason. How you doing tonight?
Good, buddy. Yeah, you kind of said it pretty well. I mean, it's wrapping up, which is, I can't believe it's been 4 years. First off,
4 years.
That does not seem like that was 4 years ago that we started talking about doing this.
We actually started over 4 years ago with the November Masters and then the show. So we've been doing this for more than 4 years now.
It's funny because I can't remember, like I told you earlier today, I can't remember last week, but I can remember vividly when we talked about doing that first Masters show and that November Masters. That was fun. Good times.
Good times, man. Who would have thought two strangers hosting a golf podcast randomly together would turn into like semi best friend kind of things, you know? 4 years later, here we are. We're talking about our kids before the show. Well, your kids and my life before the show. 4 years. I mean, I rank you up there in the top 4 or 5 in my power rankings of best friends right there.
It is weird. Like, if you think about it, like we know each other's families, like it's kind of strange. It's like, yeah, I consider you one of my best friends, and I've only hung out with you one time, really. Like, it's kind of crazy.
I mean, this is the same thing as hanging out. Literally, for anybody watching right now, early on in this episode, we've literally been in the backstage area for literally 20 minutes just small talking before I clicked record this episode. So that's what it's like when the two of us get together. We don't just click live or click go live. We chit chat. We spend a lot of time together. But anyway, Jason, we are here to wrap up the 2024 golf season. There are the fall swinging, and maybe we'll go live sporadically in the fall, to talk some of the bigger fall events when they happen. And I don't know if you caught some of last week's episode. I had a couple of people asking questions on the show last week about some golf movies. I got an idea. We should do a golf podcast movie episode in the fall or the winter sometime where we just talk about the best golf movies of all time. Maybe we'll do that as well. But we're here for the Tour Championship. We're here at East Lake Golf Club. We're in Hotlanta, Georgia, to wrap this season up. Real quick, recapping last week's BMW Championship. Keegan Bradley won last week. Got himself vaunted up into the top 5 of the FedEx Cup standings. Thoughts on the BMW last week and thoughts on Keegan of all people. I don't know about you, but I know he's changed people have changed their opinions of Keegan lately, but he still rubs me the wrong way. Not just because he came this close to letting Sam Burns backdoor a win, but because, I don't know, his personality still rubs me the wrong way, and I don't know why, Jason.
I used to hate Keegan. Like, he was one of my least favorite golfers. Yeah. I've come around. The past few years, I've come around with him. I don't know if you watched Full Swing, but I felt genuinely horrible for him when he didn't make the Ryder Cup last year. That was so hard to watch. Like, I mean, he deserved it.
I still hate him. I don't care.
I don't think anybody can say, though, that he didn't deserve it last year, and he definitely does deserve it. Obviously, he's going to be the captain in the next one, but I was happy to see him win for the most part. That kind of is a segue into my beef, though. I hate the way that they do the FedEx Cup standings. The fact that he's been garbage pretty much this entire year, and now he's 4th, I hate that. so much.
Yeah.
Like if you win later in the year, you're in way better shape than if you win early in the year, and I don't like that.
So I'm gonna counter that because that's what I said. Now, as you're saying that, I remember one part of last year's show when we did this show last year. I remember saying the exact same thing, and I remember tweeting it out as well. But then somebody, and I forget who it was, some golf, content creator or somebody we've worked with, sent me a message and said, well, when you get to the playoffs in any sport, sometimes the 8th seat makes it to the finals, or sometimes a wild card team makes it to the Super Bowl. It's about getting to the playoffs and then getting hot in the playoffs to win a championship. Is there, and it made me think maybe there are ways they can make the tour championship more fan friendly. But I think I've swayed my opinion last year that once you make to the playoffs and you get hot, that's all that matters.
I think Scottie kind of chimed in on this last week saying that he didn't like it just because of the same reason. I mean, like he's had an unbelievable year. It's hard, but I do get your point on the flip side, that I do get your point of like getting hot at the right time. I just don't love the fact that you could come in, basically not win the entire year, not even really have that good of a season, and then you can win right at the end once or twice, and then you can actually win the whole thing. That I don't love that.
So maybe they got to work on tweaking the points in the playoffs, what you get for winning, et cetera. Something I thought about tweaking that maybe they should do, and we'll get into a lot of different ideas. I know you've got ideas as well. Is there a scenario or a way maybe that they should adjust? And I'm going to put up on the screen, for anybody that doesn't know, Tour Championship, everyone gets a starting stroke. Well, people get starting stroke advantages. And this is from PGA tout John Hausberg's page, his weekly article. This is where all the starting strokes are this week. This is where everybody is. Scottie, being the best golfer this year, is starting with a 2-stroke advantage. And 2 strokes is a lot, but is 2 strokes advantage really that big of a difference over Xander or Hideki 3 strokes? Like, should there be a bigger gap in between the cushions? If you think about it, Scottie hasn't won the Tour Championship yet. It's been 3 years since the person that came into the playoffs, Patrick Cantlay in 2021, actually won the Tour Championship. Should they do some kind of scenario where, based off of how many wins you get throughout the season or your standings entering the playoffs, maybe you get a little boost? Maybe the stroke advantage changes a little bit as the season goes on, or when you get to the Tour Championship. I don't know. There's got to be some tweak to that maybe.
It's tough because, to kind of play off what you're saying, only a certain number of guys can win this, honestly. Like, I mean, 2 strokes is not a lot, no, but you're talking about, like, when you talk about him versus, like, Rory, for example, you're talking 6 strokes. That's a huge amount. So, really, you look at this tournament, 5 guys can win, in my opinion. That's it. 5 guys. And which kind of plays away from, like, this isn't really a fan-friendly, we kind of talked about this before. It's not really a fan-friendly event. It's not super exciting. I do kind of like, I remember how I used to be, like, when it was like the year that Tiger won, but Xander still won the FedEx Cup playoffs, or maybe it was the other way around. I forget what it was, but whatever. But it's just I don't know. It's hard to, I don't really know what I'm saying, but I just feel like.
No, I get what you're saying, but I just want to give you this. So I've got this 5 years since this starting stroke thing happened. It started in 2019.
Yeah.
All right. 2 times the first seat won, or the number 1 player won. That was Patrick Cantlay in 2021 and Dustin Johnson in 2020. Who? Dustin Johnson? Who's that? I don't even know. Last year, Viktor Hovland started in the 2nd spot at 8 under and won. In 2022, Rory McIlroy in the 6th spot at 4 under came back to win. And all the way back in 2019, Rory won it in the 5 spot at 5 under. So I don't want to say that it's completely out of the realm of possibility that someone comes from behind to win it, but it is pretty slim. You said the top 5. I say the top 6. Realistically, just because Rory's in the 6th spot and he's won this twice coming from behind, realistically, that's all you've got chance-wise. But if you page down, the amount of money, this means so much to the players. Because just look, even if you finish in 30th place, who's the cheapest guy this week? Matthew Pavon at $6K? I mean, $550,000 is a lot of money for a young kid, at this point in their career. So there's a lot of money on the line this week. Hell, if you get up into the top 12, you're guaranteed $1 million paycheck.
Yeah. No, that's a good way to put it. I mean, I think JT is actually 30, isn't he? Yeah, he's 30. So I don't know. I just feel like they got to do something. I don't know exactly what the answer is to that question. I was
going on the DraftKings price. Sorry. Matthew Pavon's 24th spot, but I think he's the only 6K guy on the DraftKings board.
I go back and forth, and I heard somebody, I forget, I want to give credit, but I can't remember which podcast it was. Somebody talking about, like, do we do a match play event for this? Like, there's got to be something, and seed it based on, points overall. I don't know if that's the answer either. I'm not 100% sure. I just wish they could make it more exciting somehow.
I'm trying to think of a way to handicap it, like a match play handicap. So, like, if Scottie Scheffler's going up against Justin Thomas, maybe you give Scottie Scheffler a 1-stroke or 2-stroke advantage or something like that. Or maybe a match play is, I love the Dell match play, and I was still bitter that they got rid of it. Maybe that's it. I don't think it matters, and I'm going to remove this from the screen for a little bit so I can talk a little bit here. I don't think it matters that we don't like this event. This event is for the players. If anything on the PGA Tour needed to be voted on by the players, I think the Tour Championship and the three events, in the playoffs would be what the players should vote on. You know what I mean? Like, they should have 100% of the say on the structure of this tournament, because you play all season long to get to this and what's now a $25 million first place prize.
That's a great point too. I mean, Scottie comes in, it's definitely for the players. Scottie comes in this week and he plays his B- game or above, he's going to win. So he's put himself in a spot like that. And so is Xander. Xander's obviously had a great season too, but that's a good point. I mean, it's not for us, this is for the players, and, like, they should be rewarded for what they've done all season.
Yeah. So I love PGA tout John Hosborough. I was sharing I read his article every single week. It's the first thing I do in my preparation on a weekly basis with golf. He's been on the show before, and I'm trying to find where in the article it has it. But he put out a bunch of different ideas in his article this week that can at least try to make the event more fan friendly, I guess, to say to help the fans. Give me a second here to a staggered start, a happy medium. So you could experiment with different broadcast features, like the NFL does with the Pro Bowl, different camera angles, maybe mic up every single player caddy conversation, more fan engagement with tweets in the broadcast, maybe partner with DraftKings or Fanduel and bring some of the content creators or big time GPP winners onto the broadcast. This is something that I really like. Golf. Can I ask you this? What percentage of people that watch golf on a weekly basis do you think are involved in golf betting or DFS? Say there's 1 million people watch a tournament. How many of them think have some kind of financial investment each week?
70%.
I agree, because it's still a fringe sport. It's not like football where you just turn on whatever game's on Sunday night. Right. Everybody watching golf is invested financially. So the PGA Tour could take 1 or 2 million from this prize pool and do a free DraftKings contest with $1 million on the line. For all the dedicated fans that have been doing it week in and week out for the entire season. I kind of like that idea from PGA Tout on that aspect of it.
The one big problem is I'm not convinced, and I might just be like being skeptical or, I don't know. But I just don't feel like the PGA Tour really gives a shit about the fans. And I really don't.
No, I don't think they do.
Because I think they care about now they start to care about the players because they have to. But I really don't feel like their goal is not what the NFL's goal is. I'm going to bring in as much money as I can, bring as many people, into the experience as possible. They don't have a marketing plan. They don't have a direction almost right now. And I don't feel like satisfying the fans, which is sad, because football is like a sport, like you said, like you see your teams playing on Sunday night or the, the Lions or the Eagles are playing on Sunday. Everybody in the town is going to watch it. Golf's not the same way. Golf is a very niche sport where their fans are usually like super into it, like super diehards. And it's like, I don't feel like they care about keeping those people into the game at all. They don't do anything to like enhance the fan experience.
So here's another thing that John had mentioned in his article, and I kind of like this. Look, with the new elevated events, you're going to see more and more each year, because once you get to the BMW, the second leg of the playoffs, you're guaranteed all elevated events, right? Which is where the biggest FedEx Cup points come from outside the playoffs. So every year that this goes on with the current structure, you're going to see more and more of the same players in the Tour Championship, or at least up to the BMW, because they're the guys that are scoring the points in the elevated events and the majors and whatnot. So maybe they shouldn't have it. And East Lake is a very difficult course. It's a near 7,400 yard, par 71, whatever. It's a long, tough course. You got to be on your A game. You got to be a great putter. You got to be a great approach. You got to be hitting it great off the tee. You got to do everything well this week. So maybe they shouldn't have it at East Lake every single year. Maybe they should rotate it every single year so that more fans. So right now, unless you're going to fly to Atlanta or you live in the Atlanta area, it's the only way fans can get involved. Maybe bounce it around. And he mentioned in his article, maybe you preview one of the major courses in the next year.
I love that idea.
Go to where the U.S. Open is,
or
go to where the PGA Championship is for the Tour Championship. Every single you could. I don't know what's more golfer important, the PGA or the U.S. Open. You just a preview, a tease of the U.S. Open every single year is held at the Tour Championship. Maybe something like that tweaks it a little bit. And again, this is why I read PGA Tout. He doesn't just give great advice. He also brings up really good, interesting points. Maybe that's a way to spice it up a little bit.
No, I like that a lot. I mean, that'd be a way for everyone.
Because hold on, I'm sorry to cut you off. Rory McIlroy leads he dominates East Lake every single year, whether he wins the Tour Championship or not, depending on where he starts the Tour Championship. He is amazing at this course, right? So maybe we shouldn't have a place where Rory is just guaranteed to jump up the leaderboard every single year. You know what I mean? Tweak it a little bit.
That's a good point. If he dominates this year, I mean, it's like Rory hasn't had a great year. He's had an okay year, but if he wins, you're going to be like, wow, he's going to win the FedEx Cup playoffs, and he didn't really have that good of a year. No, I like that idea a lot. Andy Lack brought up a good point on his podcast too. He said, we play so much golf on the West Coast and in the South when it's colder outside. Obviously, the northern states, we can't have tournaments in March, April, obviously, but there's so many states that have absolutely beautiful this time of the year. Like Michigan's an amazing state for golf this time of the year. There's a lot of them, Wisconsin, Minnesota, where places where you can't have events 9 months out of the year. It's like, why are we so set on having an event at East Lake in Atlanta, Georgia, where it's 1,000 degrees right now? It's like there's so many states that are beautiful this time of the year that even Chicago area, Boston area, Philadelphia area, where it's you could have tournaments in any of those states and it could be awesome for this time of the year and rotate them. I don't know.
There's a local on 102.5 Fox the Gambler. It's promoted and produced by them, but it's online. It's called Swinging and Ding It. They talk gambling, golf, but they also just talk golf in general. And Harry Mays, one of my favorite Philadelphia sports media members there is. He does that for fun, but he also is on the radio and all. He brought the same thing up that we're blessed in Philadelphia. Within a 20-30 minute drive of Center City, you can get to 85, 90 world-class golf courses. There's a course in Delaware just across the border from Philadelphia. It's called the Augusta of the North, Bay Greens. I played it 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, it's Augusta North, basically. But you can't play there in February or March because of the fact that most of the time the weather's going to be shitty. So I like that idea of bouncing it around, maybe taking away from that major idea. Just go to a course that's never hosted a golf tournament. Every year, give a golf course their chance to host their first ever PGA event.
Yeah.
I love that idea. I think it's a fantastic way to look at it. It's a fantastic way to do it. Real quick before we continue on, because I got a really interesting Scottie Scheffler question for you. I wanted to tease for a while, but guys, we got a lot of great sponsors, and I got to shout out the first one, SherryTickets.com. Family owned and operated since 1946. Great prices, no hidden fees. The price you see is the price you pay. Whether you need sports tickets, concert tickets, theater tickets, whatever it is. I know my man Adam was at the Creed concert. He got his tickets at SherryTickets.com. Use promo code EOP10 at checkout to get you an additional 10% off. Why would you overpay with the rest? Save with the best. SherryTickets.com, promo code EOP10. So Jason, Scottie Scheffler, he's the player of the year, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Not by a lot.
There's no argument there. He's won 6 events this year, the Masters for the second time, 4 elevated events. He's won a gold medal. It's all great. Scottie Scheffler has the 2-stroke advantage this year. He has never won the Tour Championship. I kind of feel like, and I don't know if this is crazy to say, that Scottie Scheffler has to win the Tour Championship to validate this year. Because if you think about it, he's only won 2 majors in his career, both have been the Masters. The elevated events are kind of a new thing. I kind of feel like Scottie Scheffler's resume is missing something else. Like, this is one of the greatest of years that any golfer's had in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But does it rank up there realistically with anything Tiger did, with Rory in his prime early on? Is it really ready to eclipse that? And I've been thinking about Scottie Scheffler a lot lately that, yes, he's a top 5 machine. He's never out of the top 10 except for last week. He's won a lot of tournaments, and I'm still not sure how to grade elevated events in the big grand scheme of things. I kind of feel like until he wins a different major than the Masters or he wins a tour championship, that maybe he's a tick down from the elite of the elite all time. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say there?
It does.
I know I didn't put it in the right words there,
no, you did.
But I'm trying to grade his season compared to all the other great seasons of all time. And while it's a great season, I don't think it registers where some people put it in the elite upper echelon.
And it's hard to judge too, because I think so Xander's been on a run this summer, like 2 majors, been amazing. Like before that run, Scottie was the runaway player of the year. Like, it wasn't even close. You couldn't even talk about anybody else. Like, Xander's summer kind of put everything into perspective where, like, he did win 2 majors. And I think that's the biggest thing. And he's like kind of whatever to me, but I feel like the second major or third major, but a second venue or
different major.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing for me right now. It's like, East Lake's great. Obviously, who doesn't want $25 million? They all want $25 million. So it's like, it'd be more impressive to me to see him win the Open, for example. I mean, like a tournament that he's not supposed to win, where at a course that he hasn't won before, and to come on and like win it. I mean, he don't knock it. He's won some amazing events this year too. I mean, I know there were elevated events, but like he won the Players too. So I mean, like it's not like his resume is not impressive or anything. I just don't know. It's not even close to a Tiger year.
Yeah, but even take Tiger out of the equation. Rory's like elite years. I don't know. Like, I just feel like we put Scottie up. We're not me and you, but just in general, the golf, talking community puts Scottie's season this year and the last 2-3 year run for him, like up there in that like upper echelon. And look, I'm not trying to take anything away from Scottie. I just feel like it's missing something to really solidify it. And I don't even, like you said, it's East Lake. I don't even know if winning this week really does that. Maybe it is having to win a U.S. Open or win a PGA championship or an Open championship, but something's missing for me. And it's got to be more big time events. And it's not a knock on his, elevated events. I'm pulling them up. I want to just double check which ones they were this year.
It's weird how I feel like Scottie's had, like, I mean, I'm not going to knock. He's had an amazing year. We all know.
Yeah.
But like, arguably Xander has been more consistent. Like, he hasn't had the crap week. Scottie's had not a lot, but I mean, like, the PGA championship, he didn't play well. Last week, he looked pretty bad. I mean, probably the worst we've seen Scottie all year. He looked last week. It's like Xander is just like, even when Xander has his C+ game, he's still finishing top 5. I mean, like, he's been, I think, I feel like we overvalued the start of Scottie's year, and I feel like we're undervaluing the end of Xander's year, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm looking at, their events, and I mean, he had 40, what did it say? The 41st at the U.S. Open, 33rd last week out of 50. Scottie actually has flaws in his game. Xander might not win as often as Scottie, but Xander has less flaws in his game than Scottie. Does that make sense?
Putting. I think it comes down to putting. I think
it does. It really legitimately comes. He has one flaw in his game, putting. And until he becomes even slightly above average in putting, I think he's going to have those weeks where the putter falls. Hold on, where was it? Let me pull him up back here again. The U.S. Open, where he finished in 41st place. He lost 6 strokes putting. That's not like losing like 1 stroke putting. That's losing a lot of strokes putting. Until he cleans the putting up, I kind of feel like there's always going to be a flaw. Xander gained strokes everywhere, every single week, across the board. I didn't bet Xander this week. I was hoping his number was a little bit better to bet him this week. But I think Xander Schauffele wins. Even though I didn't bet him, I think he wins this week.
So do you think, I mean, I think they're both course proof, relatively speaking, to say that. But I almost feel like Xander has proven to be more course proof. I mean, like, because of his putter. I mean, I think that's honestly the X factor. I'm not trying to be funny by saying X factor, but I feel like that can keep him in a tournament when he's not quite as accurate as Scottie. He's just as long. He's a great putter. His short game's really good. His iron game's damn near the top of the board. It might not be quite as good as Scottie's, but it's good. I mean, and the big X factor is, I mean, he's a way better putter than Scottie. So it's interesting. And now that
Xander's for show, punt for dough, right? You know,
he's gotten the monkey off of his back, as people want to say. Like, it's like I feel like he needs to win a little bit more to be in that.
Absolutely. And this conversation isn't to say Xander's better than Scottie.
No.
It's just trying to put how great, because again, I'm not trying to say Scottie Scheffler didn't have a great season. I'm just trying to say in the upper echelon of top 3 or 4 greatest seasons of all time, I think it falls a little short.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't know. All right. Anyway, this week, East Lake, there is still betting to be done. There's still money to be made. There's still DraftKings lineups to fill out. Obviously, like we said, nobody's come from better than -4 to win in the 5 years that the Tour Championship has been done like this. So that pretty much eliminates everybody outside the top 10 from actually winning. So it's Scottie Scheffler 1, Xander 2, Hideki. I don't know how you bet or play Decky after his injury, his withdrawal last week, where he was literally 1 stroke off the lead when he withdrew. Keegan, who won last week, Ludwig Oberg, Rory, Colin, Wyndham, Sam Burns, who I love, and Patrick Cantlay. If it's not Scottie and it's not Xander in that top 10, who are you looking for and why?
My gut feeling is Hideki, but then the back injury, like you said, that worries me a lot. I mean, like we were talking about this over text the other day. Like, you don't withdraw if you're 1 shot off the lead. If you're
in the play, especially in this type of event, with the money on the line and stuff.
Yeah, if you're 6-7 back and you feel like crap, by all means, but you're not going to withdraw, 1 shot back. It doesn't make any sense. Yep. So who can do it this year? I don't feel like Rory can, just because of the way he's been playing. He's been really bad. So I think outside those top guys, like, I don't know, Oberg is probably my favorite guy to jump. But I'm not sure if he's quite at that level of like being able to pull a Rory and win. But like, I feel like he's got the best. He's playing the best right now, and he's got the best game to do it.
Okay, so I'm gonna do 2 things here. First off, Scottie being 10 under, but he was pretty bad last week. Could we agree that outside the U.S. Open, that might have been his worst event of the year last week?
Yeah.
Overall, he just didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, it was poorly played. So that kind of, almost to an extent eliminates him in my mind if you're not going to pick him to win this event. Hideki, you can't do. So Xander at 8 under. Last year, the winner of the BMW, Viktor Hovland, and I didn't bet Keegan this week, but the winner of the BMW, Viktor Hovland, took that momentum and then came back and won the next week, at the Tour Championship, and that puts Keegan Bradley at 6 under, 4 back. That's a question mark to me. I don't think Keegan can go low enough back-to-back weeks to catch Scott. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah,
I don't know if you can see that duplicate thing happening.
I don't think he's the player that Viktor Hovland is. I think that was part of it.
Oh,
Viktor
absolutely. Viktor Hovland had a great season last year, leading up into the playoffs.
And this is a topic for a different day, but I feel like we talk about most disappointing guys of the season. I feel like, everybody talks Rory. Hovland's right up there. I mean, like, Hovland has been, for him, obviously not for the average guy, but he's been pretty terrible for the most part. I just don't think Keegan can. I think that was almost like an out-of-body experience for Keegan. I don't feel like he's talented enough, whereas last year Hovland was. I don't feel like he's talented enough to win again. But that's a way to be contrarian because I don't think anybody's going to play him. So,
right. So something that I know he's been better. He's not team no putt Keegan anymore. But something I'm looking at when I'm building my DraftKings lineups and building my model to make my bets. I made 2 bets with strokes this week. I did bet Rory straight up just because he's dominated East Lake week in and week out. I bet Sam Burns, who's also at 4 under, which is where Rory was in 2022. Sam Burns has been playing really well lately. And something that I've done, I did it last week and I didn't have great success, but I think it's because Hideki withdrew and literally all my lineups had Hideki in it. He was my biggest bet of the week. So, that's probably why I had such a bad week last week. You've got really fast Bermuda greens this week. Okay, so in the playoffs, you want the hottest golfers, not necessarily the best golfers. So instead of going 36 or plus rounds, I'm looking at the shorter amount, like who's been the best in the last 12 or 24 rounds.
Smart.
So the top 5 putters on Bermuda fast greens. 1, Louis Aubert. Sam Burns 2, Wyndham Clark 3, Pavon and Bobby Mack are 4 and 5. So Sam Burns being the second best putter recently and in general, honestly, on fast Bermuda greens. At 4 under, there's a track record 2 years ago, Rory doing it. Is there a scenario where Sam Burns can be that surprise guy if Scottie just plays par golf? If Xander shoots 1 under for the week, which it's going to be a tough course to play, is there a scenario where Sam Burns' putter stays hot from his 7 under on Sunday at the BMW and maybe carries it over this week?
To me, I think yes, 100% that there is a scenario. And I think there's 2 guys in that range that kind of remind me like of that same kind of potential. And I think it's Burns and Cantlay. Like Cantlay's another guy where like when he gets it rolling, especially on Bermuda, like he is a good Bermuda putter too. And he's much better on Bermuda than anything else. So it's like those 2 guys are, you want to find that guy. I'm not saying you have to find that guy that goes up the leaderboard. Like who's it going to be? No matter where it is, you got to have at least 2 guys in your lineup that are going to skyrocket up the board. And I think him and Cantlay are the 2 guys.
See, that's what, when you're building your DraftKings lineups, you don't want to just pick the winner. You want to see the guys that are going to, something I've done, recently with the playoffs because there are no cut events, and I'm going to adopt this next year. And it's really helped me lately because I've had a lot of recent successes. When it's a no cut event, you've got to put a lot of weight in DraftKings scoring.
Yep.
Because you get 4 rounds of every single golfer. So even if they're bad 1 or 2 of the rounds, if they can go super low, 1 round or 2 rounds, that really helps you. So you want the guys that can skyrocket up the board. And how do you skyrocket up the board? By making birdies, by scoring DraftKings points and whatnot. And I think Burns is an inconsistent guy. But Burns has 65, 64, 63s in his bag 1 or 2 rounds every single week when he's on his game. So that's why when I saw his number, I believe, where's my list here? I didn't even write it down. There it is, 40-1. When I saw Sam Burns 40-1 tied in that top 10 there with everybody else at -4, I kind of felt like 40-1 on Sam Burns was great value for your money.
I agree. And I think you got to look at the board this week of like who can go nuclear. And it's like, and Sam, you just said Sam Burns is one of them for sure. I think
Rory, and I know Rory's been bad. My other bet was Rory.
But he can.
Rory can flip a switch and go nuclear, right?
I don't think there's that many guys in the field that can. I feel like I'm talking like really nuclear. I'm talking okay, Burns, Rory. I'm just doing this off the top of my head. Cantlay, Wyndham Clark. I would put Tommy probably in that category too, of like a guy that can go super low out of nowhere. It's like there's not that many guys that you could see fly up the board though, to me.
So somebody because when you're building DraftKings lineups, there's 30 guys. Ownership percentage, I kind of feel like you just throw it out the window this week. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
I agree, 100%.
But who's been near the top of the leaderboard after the first round, like the last 3 or 4 weeks? Chris Kirk. Kirk's not been good all year. But Kirk in round 1 kind of has these little bursts. So you're looking for guys that have individual round potential.
What blows my mind? This is a little bit off topic, and sorry to interrupt you, but the fact that Aaron Rai has been as good as he has been since like May, and the fact that he's in the same spot in the standings as like Kirk and he's JT and like he's not that, and Pavon like I don't know, he's not that far off.
I agree with you. He's Aaron Rye's number 3 in my model this week.
Yeah. And he's been awesome.
In my model over the last 24 rounds, he does not rank outside the top 13 in any stat that I used this week. Yeah. And he's in the top 8 in all but 2 of my stats this week. Scrambling and around the green, he's in the top 15. Everything else, he's in the top 8. And he's 6,400. Which is crazy.
This is your guy. So question for you. It's like, okay, outside of, you probably say Xander has had a better summer. Since May, who's been better than him? Maybe Scottie
in this field? I don't think anybody in this field.
Maybe Xander, maybe Scottie.
And this is where the problem with the FedEx Cup and the Tour Championship comes to play. Because I cannot bet Aaron Rai. I built 3 lineups in 2 of the 3 lineups.
Yeah.
Because he can go low, but can he overcome a 10-stroke difference over 4 rounds? Like, I don't think so. Scottie Scheffler on his worst week this week, what's he going to shoot? 2-3 under? If he completely shits the bed, he's going to get to 12 under. That means Aaron Rai is going to have to shoot 13 under just to beat Scottie. No matter who else jumps up the board. So Aaron Rai has no chance this week.
No. But he has a chance that he can go way up the board.
Yeah.
So
now, and I don't know, when we're recording this Monday night, again, we are pre-recording this. If you're watching this on Tuesday afternoon, this was pre-recorded. So I will check comments and respond to them when I can. DraftKings hasn't released without the strokes market yet. And I'm sure they will Tuesday or Wednesday release the without the strokes market. I'll pounce Aaron Rai for a low round of the week.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I can. There's no way you can bet him to win the tour championship at that point.
No, definitely not. But that's probably another thing that's wrong with you've seen Aaron Rai, who has a win this year, has been, I don't even know how many top 10s, a lot of top 10s this year.
I'm looking up his player profile right now.
A lot of top 15s, and then you have versus Keegan Bradley, who's been awful this year except for last week. I mean, it kind of shows you the flaw right there.
So let's see. He's got his win. He had 3 straight top 7s with the Genesis, John Deere, and Rocket Mortgage. He obviously won the Wyndham, FedEx 16th. He had a 19th at the U.S. Open, 14th.
He was right there. Even if he didn't win.
I mean, even going back to March when he had 7th at the Houston Open. He finished 19th at the Mexico Open. He's been good all year.
Yeah. How is he in the same spot as JT, who's been terrible most of the year?
Yeah. That's where the flaws in this system happens. But you know where there's no flaws? With PhillySportsTrips.com, the premier travel and tailgate organization across the board. Obviously, their trip to Brazil to see the Eagles play the Green Bay Packers week 1 is sold out. But if you want to travel to see the Eagles or Phillies or any Philadelphia sports team, you go to this website, you sign up, you mention EOP, and they will give you an experience unlike any other. Whether you want to go down to Tampa to see the Eagles tape on the Bucks, Miami to see the Philadelphia Union, you want to go down to spring training to Clearwater, our favorite place, Jason and I, go to PhillySportsTrips.com, sign up, mention EOP, and they will take care of you with the greatest experience, like November 10th in Dallas week. Guys, check them out, PhillySportsTrips.com. You like that little segue I did for you right there?
Dude. That was your best segue ever. So good.
No, well, definitely not. You don't watch it up at Trading the AM. I'm really smooth on the morning show segues, just so you know.
There you go.
I lost train of thought where we were even talking at that point.
I can't remember. That was too good.
I can't even remember. Anyway, on a DraftKings purpose, any other names that you want to talk about? I'm going to throw out Pavon as a name, being that he's the cheapest guy on the board this week and that he is a great putter on Bermuda in a very small sample size, but he is a great putter on that. And he does hit a lot of fairways, which is important this week. So on a cheap end, I do like Pavon at the bottom of the board to build a DraftKings lineup. You can build a lineup with Scottie Scheffler. Let me see here. The Pavon lineup I built, I got a Xander and a Rory lineup in a lineup with Pavon. I was able to build that. So you can use a 6K Kai this week. And again, you're going to get multiple, rounds out of him no matter what. And he's really good. Do you think that the Tour Championship could turn into a putting contest this week?
It could. I mean, it definitely could for sure. I mean, I don't think you're going to see like a crap ton of birdies this week, but I feel like, yeah, I could. I think you got to find that guy. And I mean, like, if you think that Pavon's that guy, then you got to roll with it. I think this is a week. A lot of weeks are like this in GPPs, but I feel like especially this week, you got to go with the guys with high upside. You can't worry about the consistent golfer because it's not going to win you anything this week. Like, you need to go with a guy like Matthew Pavon that can get really hot, or somebody else down there. Even like I don't hate the Akshay. He hasn't been good really recently, but like we've seen him go really low, and so that is intriguing to me this week because you need to find somebody that's going to get hot at the bottom end that can go way up the leaderboard. And I don't think it's JT.
It's funny. This is the first time I've looked at ownership percentage the whole entire week while you were talking there.
Yeah.
Pavon is the second lowest projected owned guy this week at the bottom of the board. He's projected at just under 7%. Keegan, last week's winner of the BMWs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He is 6th in the ownership projections, the lowest. 8th is Batea, as you just mentioned.
Who's the lowest?
To throw that out there.
Just curious, who's the lowest?
Sahith Theegala, strangely. I mean, Theegala has been pretty bad the last, couple of weeks that he's teed it up. So,
yeah.
But it's a 6.7, 6.8. There's a 0.1 projection percentage difference between Pavon and Sahith right now.
What's Theegala's? Theegala's more expensive by a lot too.
Yeah,
so
by $1,000 more.
$1,000. That's a lot. I mean,
that's a lot in a lineup. You know what I mean? So there's only 3 guys right now projected under 10%. Pavon, Tagala, and Benyon. They're the only 3 guys currently projected under 10%, which just goes to show when you have a 30-person field, you kind of just got to, to an extent. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have, those kind of ownership percentages, but, sorry, I'm watching TV, and I think Bryce Harper just hit a walk-off something. I don't know. They're all mobbing Bryce Harper. So I'm slightly distracted for 30 seconds here. I don't know what Bryce Harper did, but he just hit a walk-off something. So
you need to hit the random guy. You need to have one guy that in your lineup.
Do you have a random guy you like this week?
It's Batea, actually, to be honest with you. I was hoping he'd be lower owned than that, but yeah, I don't mind that one. Pendrith has been really, really good. I don't know. I'm not going to worry about too much about ownership either. But yeah, I think my typical strategy in this kind of a week is I stay away from the top guys and I start with the Rory and Oberg, like that range. So I can find somebody there and just hopefully I get lucky in that one of them can win.
Can I ask you a question about this? There's 30 guys, and I don't know the exact details. I know everybody that made last week is guaranteed spots in all the elevated events. I'm assuming making the Tour Championship is pretty much getting you in the US Open, the PGA, probably the Open Championship and stuff like that. I'm not sure how the Masters works with the Tour Championship.
Yeah.
Is there a guy in this field this week that can have a great showing that can catapult their 2025 with the majors and the elevated event? Is there a guy that can use this week to kind of build their confidence maybe in the bigger events, or a guy you see this week that might win their first major next year or something like, you know what I'm getting at? This week, this is pretty much the end of the season. They're going to play what? 2 more times, 3 more times the rest of this year. You know what I mean? After, and then next year starts, is there that guy that you think can use this to turn it around?
There's 2 that come to my mind, and I've been pounding this drum. Obviously, Batea is one of them.
Actually, I agree 1,000% with Batea.
And I think the other one is Pendrith. I mean, he does it so under the radar. Nobody ever talks about him at all. But talk about a guy that's had a really good summer. I mean, he has a win. He's been awesome this summer. He's been really consistent, which is that's always been his one thing. And his other thing was that he was always good off the tee and terrible with the putter. And he's not a bad putter anymore at all. He's actually a pretty good putter now. So I think he's a guy that I could see him getting hot one time. He kind of reminds me a little bit of a poor man's Wyndham Clark in a way, where it's he's got a lot of the tools. He's long off the tee. He's also a pretty good putter. He can go low. It's just a matter of putting it all together. I feel like Pendrith could be that guy.
Okay. I agree with you on Batea 100%. I think Sam Burns, I know it's up at the top of the board, but I kind of see Sam Burns can use a big week like this to kind of catapult him next year. I kind of feel like this is an important week, even if he doesn't win the Tour Championship, for Ludwig. Because Ludwig's had a pretty amazing rookie year, but since his injury, when did the injury happen? Around the PGA Championship or the Open Championship?
I think it was the US Open, yeah.
The US Open. Whenever that injury happened, he kind of hit a brick wall. And if he goes out there and I don't want to say dominates, but really kind of pushes the lead a little bit in this event, that can give him a chance not to have a sophomore slump. Something like that. At the bottom of the board, I kind of feel like Aaron Rai, even though he's 10 strokes off, if he jumps up the board and finishes in the top 15 this week, that kind of validates his win a few weeks ago, because it wasn't a strong field that he won.
Right.
You know what I mean? I kind of feel like a big week this week for Aaron Rai. I would have said Batea, but since you said Batea, I'll go Aaron Rai. Could catapult him and give him the confidence that when he gets to the U.S. Open next year or the Masters next year, I do belong. So I'll put his name into it.
That's a great point on the Ludwig part. I think we all thought he hit the wall. He hit the rookie wall. And I give him a lot of credit for coming back the past few weeks and being as good as he's been. He's going to be a stud. I think we all kind of agree on that one.
Yeah. I mean, he's too consistently good across the board not to be a stud. He's just so basically smooth in everything he does. I mean, there's effortless effort put out there from him on a weekly basis.
And he's long. He's a good putter. He's just his only minor flaw is his around the green game, and he can get better at that. I mean, so
is it weird to say that his game? I mean, it's different, but the consistency reminds me of Xander a little bit.
Yeah, I could see that.
I don't know if it'll take him as long as it took Xander to win his first major.
Yeah,
but he's just an all around. If you were gonna build the perfect golfer, Xander's one of those prototypical things. I kind of feel like Ludwig can be that building frame for the perfect golfer.
I feel like he reminds me a lot of Hovland too, like with the way that their games are.
Because of the around the green game.
Hovland with a better putter. Like that's what he is, really.
Basically.
So,
yeah. It's interesting. You know who's perfect? The best damn lawyer in the state of Pennsylvania. David R. Cherry, the Cherry Law Firm. If you need a workers' compensation lawyer, motor vehicle accident, personal injury, criminal law, call the best in the state of Pennsylvania. Call for the man that's going to fight for you and get you what you deserve. Call David R. Cherry, 610-565-0300, or go to cherryinjurylaw.com. Just make sure you mention Fairway to Heaven. Make sure you mention EOP when you call him. He will fight for you and get you what you deserve. Again, David R. Cherry, the Cherry Law Firm, 610-565-0300, or go to cherryinjurylaw.com. Sorry. That wasn't my best David R. Cherry segue, but I'll take it. I know K1 and the crew would really appreciate that one right there. All right. So let's tie a bow on this season. Let's tie a bow on the Tour Championship. Are there any other golfers, first and foremost, that we mentioned that, you want to mention, that we didn't mention that you want to mention this week?
I don't think so. I think we pretty much touched on all the guys I like. What about you?
I kind of feel like the four guys, like this year, there's more guys that kind of jumped up into the Tour Championship than years past. You had Keegan jump up. He was outside the top 50 or the top 30 before he won last week. Yep. You had Adam Scott has popped a few times lately. Fleetwood has popped a few times, and I mentioned Chris Kirk a little bit ago. Seems like Chris Kirk's in the first place, leaderboard every round one the last month of the season, but then he just falls apart after that. What do you feel like it means to golfers like Jason Day and Brian Harmon and Davis Thompson? They're right there, and it's almost impossible to lose that top 30 spot, and they fall out. Do you think there's any hangover now for them? Do you think they're itching to get back out on the course in the first fall swing event just to right the ship?
Probably, especially a guy like Davis Thompson, who's kind of like newer to the scene. I think so. And I think it just shows you like the flaw in the system of like, I know we keep saying that, but like Davis Thompson, who had a better year, Davis Thompson or Justin Thomas? I mean, I almost called him Justin.
That's a rhetorical question, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, that's just crazy to me that like JT has been so bad and I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird system. But
I do honestly think there will be changes when we're doing this show next year, the Tour Championship show. I bet you there is some slight tweaks to the rules. I really think this year was a learning year for the PGA Tour. Now, I don't think they'll fire Moynihan or anything like that. I don't think anything drastic will happen.
Yeah.
But I think there will be tweaks to the elevated events. I think there will be tweaks to the Tour, the FedEx Cup point distribution allocation or whatnot. There will be. I saw they released the next year's schedule already, and there's pretty much no change. I was hoping maybe the elevated events were spread out more. They're not. I think there will be some tweaks, though.
I think so, too.
And maybe next year, a guy like Thompson makes it. And a guy like, Justin Thomas doesn't or whatnot. Does a week like this at the Tour Championship, can someone like Justin Thomas use it to rebound for next year? Like, because first off, you had Ricky Fowler fall to pieces. You've had Justin Thomas fall to pieces. You've had Jordan Spieth injury related, but fall to pieces. Lately, maybe Rory's kind of sort of fallen to pieces. Can someone like Justin Thomas use this week to kind of right any wrongs from this season and use it as a springboard into 2025?
I think so. And I think it'll be interesting to see, like, okay, he's a guy, he's obviously a vet. He's won majors. I mean, do we see him in the fall? I mean, like, he seems like a guy that needs to get his game right in the fall. I mean, like, do we see him in some weaker field fall events? Like, I mean, it's interesting to see. But yeah, no, I agree.
Like Jordan Spieth's collapse was obviously injury related with the wrist. And I don't know if he's had the surgery yet or it's about – I know when I saw them talking about it last, they're like, it's literally as soon as the season ended for him, he was going to get the surgery on his wrist and he'll be back for the start of next season. Like, Max Homa is a name that just sits in the back of my head that is the next great golfer that's had a fall apart. You know what I mean? The fall swing's important to them. But someone like Justin Thomas that gets to play this week amongst everybody else that's had great seasons, it's kind of like, all right, if I do well this week, all right, I could take a light fall. Yeah. If I do bad this week and finish in 29th place out of 30, I might have to play the first event in the fall.
Yeah. I think, too, we see, like, on a different note, I think golf needs Justin Thomas, golf needs Jordan Spieth, and golf needs Rory. I think that's
I agree.
those are all things that like golf's just better. Like whether you like these guys or not, I think it's definitely they need those three guys, especially Spieth and Rory. I think especially, but like we just need more excitement, and I think golf's better. I hope Spieth comes back healthy next year.
I know this is. I didn't pre-prep you for this question, so if I'm throwing you off here, I apologize. Is there one rule change or one thing that you would change? Because this is it. This is the end of season 4. We might do a pop-up episode here or there in the fall or the winter. Is there something you would change immediately that you think? Because there has been one change. Obviously, they've given an exemption to Tiger Woods for the betterment of golf to all elevated events. So we might get more than 3 or 4, tournaments of Tiger Woods next year. Is there something you'd like to see them do that I'm not saying make the PGA Tour better, but make the PGA Tour better for us fans?
I think put a cut back in the elevated events. I think that's my number one.
It's going to happen. I think at some point it's going to have to happen if they keep adding. Well, you're guaranteed if you make the BMW, you're in it. If you're in certain levels, you're in it. They're going to have to because in 2 years, the elevated events are going to have like 80 guys qualify.
Right. What's your change that you would have?
I would find a way to get live golfers in elevated events.
Do you think
all live golfers that fit certain criteria get to pick 2 or 3 elevated events that they can play in a year? Bryson, Brooks, making the partnership that supposedly happened, but nobody's talked about the live golf, PGA partnership since it was announced. So we don't know what this partnership is. The partnership has to, if you want the elevated events to actually mean something, you've got to invite Bryson. You've got to invite Brooks. You've got to invite Joakim Neiman. You've got to invite, I don't know, you can name anybody else that's over there. Dustin Johnson, who I think Dustin Johnson's washed, but, you've got to find a way to bring those guys and open the doors with live golf. And that not to every event, but the elevated events.
That seems like the no-brainer merge too. I mean, like if you're going to combine the two, like for the elevated events, that's the no-brainer. I mean, do you think honestly in the next, we'll say a full calendar year, like 1 year from now, we're sitting here. Do you think they merge?
Merge? No, they'll never merge.
Well, okay, not merge.
I think they'll come to an agreement on a way to make it work. Yeah. I think within a year or so, live golf will count towards golf rankings.
I think so too.
Which gets you in the majors. Yeah. Maybe because they're 3 rounds versus 4 rounds, maybe the point distribution is a little different, but I think they will. I think they have to make an elevated event really as meaningful as it's supposed to be. How can you have it when the U.S. Open champion is not there, or the PGA champion isn't there, or whoever? Basically, looking at Brooks and Bryson, basically as the 2 top guys on the Live Golf Tour. How can you have an elevated event without those guys there?
Yeah, that's true.
So I think a scenario where they get World Golf rankings on the Live Tour, maybe 75% of the point total as you get on the PGA Tour because it's 3 rounds versus 4 rounds happens. And I think it comes down to, you just give them access to the elevated events. I think that's what you do with it.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And one other thing I would make change to, it's the requirement to play all, but is it 1 or 2 events? Like you have to play all the elevated events, but 1. You're only allowed to pass on 1. Yeah. I think if it's an elevated event, maybe you squeeze it to 2 or 3 that you can skip. So that it opens the door because if you don't want to make it a cut event, if you want it to be a no-cut event, you've got to open the door to a few more people. So if Scottie wants to take the week after the Masters off after winning the Masters again, you let him take it off if he wants to.
Yeah, I don't even agree with capping it at all. I feel like you want to get out of these elevated events. First of all, you're an idiot if you take too many off because they're $3.5 million if you win. So, I mean, if you want to be out, then as long as you say that you're withdrawing and they can replace you with somebody, then so be it.
Yeah, I think the elevated event, Matt, you have to play X amount thing is kind of a problem. But that's a topic for another day. Maybe we'll do an episode about rule changes and stuff like that later on this off season. But anyway, one final sponsor for 65 plus years, Dolan's Bar has been the quintessential Irish American dive bar in Delaware County. Jason doesn't know what Delco is, but I think being my friend, he should know what Delco is. And being the quintessential Irish American dive bar in Delco is very, very important. Great food, great times. 24 East Sellers Avenue in Ridley Park, my old hometown. Bonesbar.com, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Make sure you go mention to EOP and Fairway to Heaven, to PJ there over and his crew over there. Guys, make sure you check them out and make sure you're locked and loaded. Like and subscribe to EOP. 7-day-a-week programming here on Tuesday, which is when you are watching this. It's trending in the AM in the morning. It's on the Shane page. It's Fairway to Heaven, us right here. Birds of a Round Table, Armchair Scouts. It's Phillies post-game live. 7-day-a-week programming. You don't want to miss it right there, guys. EOP. Guys, it's been a fantastic 4th season. Jason, do you have any parting thoughts on the fact? I know we opened the show talking about 4 seasons of doing this show, and we're, a couple of months away from starting season 5. Any parting thoughts for the listeners?
Just thank you for watching. First off, I think is the biggest thing.
Yeah,
I think
that, obviously, thank you. Yeah,
thank you. It's been fun, man. It goes by. I feel like every year goes by faster and faster, but it's fun to see, and it's fun to see that we help people. You know, we're getting to the point now where like we're pretty good at this. I can safely say like there's ups and downs. Obviously, we've both seen high marks in the year. We've both seen a crappy stretch or whatever. But I feel like we consistently give good advice on, like, even if we're off our game, we still give people good advice. I mean, we hit a lot of outrights now, and I just feel like it's fun to do it, especially when you have success. It becomes even more fun. So
when you have success, it's definitely more fun. You'll become the outright king, honestly. I guess I'm going to have to start designing graphics for you. You know what I mean? Even though you can't make your own graphics, I guess I'm going to design your graphics for you.
I used to be good at DraftKings, and then that went away, and so I had to hit something. So
you're still the only one to win out of this duo that's won a GPP. Even though it was this close. This close a couple weeks ago. Anyway, guys, I want to thank everybody for a successful season 4. I appreciate everybody that's tuned in. I appreciate everybody that's shared it out. I appreciate it to all the guests that have tuned in with or joined us throughout the season. Guys, I hate to break it to you. Next year, there might be a third co-host occasionally, a little bit more frequently, because Stevie has kind of integrated himself into the Fairway to Heaven family, and I love Stevie. Stevie is a great guy. So I welcome him back. But all the guests have been fantastic this year. Rashad might be the next BK. I don't know. You know, the guy that we give the start to. You know, Elise. You know, all the great guests we've had. Matt Miller on the show from Draws and Fades. I want to thank everybody. Just because it's the last of this season, we still may do a few pop-up shows throughout the season. So make sure you're following Jason at jsully2121. Follow me at Bearded Knowledge. And make sure you're following Edge of Philly Sports, EOP Sports, because if we're live, that's where you find us, guys. So everybody have a great fall, have a great winter, and we'll see you guys in January. So everybody have a great night, and, bubbles up to you.